All night someone else listening to the rain as if on your behalf. But the rain that passes through the mind that passes through the night that passes through the nebulae and blood in a drift of voices and ash, residue of fire and fear. The mind that every morning finds its form out of the marsh of dreams, as if you had poured water from your palm, then reached into the sea itself to take it back, drop for drop, the same without apparent cause. The night a million finger-printed whispers, blessed, cursed, the reappearances. Something about insomnia and the rain, the god's mind that cannot close its eyes, voices through the wall, headboard of pain, neutrinos of will and plundering. Something about the rain, our skylight a gray box, all night someone else listening to the rain as if on your behalf, while you went out from yourself into the nerve of the future, remembering the future, nostalgias of the will, the terrible willful choices you can see coming to you like clattering film, remembering the future, the rivulets, the runnels, the gutters as deltas of leaves, clogs of rotting gloves and soil, brimming eaves, gurgling throats, downspout thrum, storm drains and cisterns, and the rain's pearls that cling then fall slowly from a hat's brim, glitter of asphalt under sodium haze, diminuendo static, the beginning of time, the corner of your eye, the breath listened to all night, the heart intent, something about what you were about to say the final time we spoke of love. But before the drifting night mind's nebulae and blood could resolve to sound, it slipped from your thought, or what would have been your thought, your hate, your fear, your offering, a leaf from the branching of branches, and became part of the untenable air, its gusts, its rain of leaves and leaves of rain, voices through the wall, headboard of pain, so that in the end reduced something about something that might have been a lie, past now less predictable than future, or never there, or if it were, so slightly, something about the rain. The candy blue of late October sky, the ochre and bronze, the yellow birch, the sky entirely blue behind sunlit leaves, now thinned, suspended, individual, each a hold of light, a copper nail, something about the sun and the iron lakes and the river blown open past Quebec to the vaults of sea, about the hand not clung to long enough to comfort the years, about the letting go into the darker night of rain, something about the giving and taking rain, the drumming, heart-beaten rain, and the silence of the morning after rain. It's a great honor to read with Stephen. Thank you to Deanna and Tree for having me back after so many years. So that was a new poem. Haven't read that one before. I was going to read all the poems that Stephen rejected at Quarry, but they were unbearable. I recognize, Stephen, that gut-wrenching honesty is a good thing, but a little bit of flattering gushery would be okay at times too. But if I remember correctly, I hope I can find it. Stephen took one poem, told me a couple of others were pretty good, and mentioned two others that I probably shouldn't send anywhere ever again. So that was the kind of relationship we started with, and that was the kind of editor he was at Quarry. It's a great honor to share a stage with him. His poem about the last reading to his daughter got me going before he said the first word, because I remembered it so vividly from his last book. And however many copies there are of Stephen's last collection of stories over there, there's not enough, because it's an absolutely mind-blowing book. I'm glad it didn't win any of the major prizes, although Stephen wished probably he could have used the cash. But we know that award juries always give writers the award for the wrong book, right? They always do. So That's why that book didn't win all the awards, so he'll get all the money for the next one. But that's a wonderful book. I hope that everyone here reads it. With all that's going on in Ukraine, it reminded me of the Russia years, so I thought I'd read this little short one. Has anybody been to Minsk? No, see, nobody goes to Minsk. Minsk is the capital of Belarus. Has anybody been to Belarus? You know, nobody goes to Belarus. I was in Belarus in March of 1990, I think. There was even fewer people in Minsk at the time. I don't even think the residents were there. Minsk was totally destroyed by the Nazi armies advancing through the Soviet Union and then destroyed again on the way back, and then leveled by the Soviets afterwards to complete the job, and then all built but by Stalinist architects. So enough said. And I was there in March. There's probably never a nice season in Minsk, but March wasn't it. Why I need you. All the hotels in the world are the hotels of Minsk. From their windows, the statues are poets and slaughtermen put up in the parks in identical poses in the plain of children. There's no heat. The radio plays one station called The Voices of Strangers. It's always the middle of March. The floor lady watches my door. The restaurants close before I am hungry. All the women I do not love call to be exploited for US dollars only. The mountains are flat. The colors are slush. There's no way to get warm. My kids don't wake me for glasses of water in the middle of dreams. The band in the bar plays Feelings. The long distance line puts your voice in the room and it almost seems real. The shop in the lobby has cartons of Snickers, but no soap. The hot water is cold. Forget about breakfast. This is how people live after the divorce, after all the wrong words, after a hand cupping water goes gradually dry. There are the hotels of Minsk, all the hotels in the world. I'm going to read two medium-ish length poems, well, shortish medium length, from a long suite called Year of Storm, set in Aylmer on one of our times back. It was a year when I was reading a lot of physics, and someone dear to me, my wife's mother, was passing away that year, and all of those came together with the changes of the seasons. So I thought I would just read the spring and winter part, given where we are in the season in Ottawa. We'll start with the spring, which isn't so spring-like when you're facing death and in a family, and ending with the winter poem. When May is also a month of mourning. The mantle awake, we swam early this year in the weather shadow of dream volcanoes. When the thought arises, what else goes under? What flounders then, awash, as twilight seals the surfaces? Like a death in May, like a toddler still awake to the undercoat our language slurs away. What colors are your eyes? They blue and black and white. Or lilac blossoms on a field of green. This week, plain garden borders and parkland fillers have obeyed deep longings of our season they in turn compose. Or what of the frozen patterns of the stars? Ice chips of fire for the iron furnace, burning behind the thrumming glassy blue, firm sky behind high cirrus tufts, combed thin where upper winds sweep back the promenades of cumulus, beyond our wincing lids, the watery lens of air. What depends on all this layering of veils? Patterns in turn bud silently as lesions from the opaque surface tension of all evenings, into these pendulous armfuls of blossoms, these ambushes of scent. Both here, where I await sheer damned beauty, and everywhere I fail to see what to expect. I admit the feedback loop of a natural reading, a reading into things. But there is more besides. The ablation, the eye glow of burning mountaintops, more besides the undercoat of white, where the receding outroyer contracts a gaze of close to the water angles on the first day in. Its high spring wash, like a slung whip along riverbanks overhung with the soft burst cones of mauve perfume, slowing the walk homeward from a white, flaked skull, tenderly brittle and bare, in wisps of down, a mother's drawspring mouth pulling at milky dark, as her raking talon twists the curtain back, a thrombus of every inclination, until no words, or what they rise from, can be settled to. Presence, overwhelm, lonely, true, devote, even dignity too grandiloquent a word a word, folding down and in, not to speak of the sound of the breathing. Lilac flowers from the green bush. At each stroke I swim forward, pushing off, something else pushing back. The slowing of light. The declension of light pulls down the crown of trees, more intimate hands now, more intimate destinies in the narrow aperture of November afternoons, where town squares dim to the faint luminescence of their cenotaphs, loom of granite in a gray lake. Dark before 5, decanting a sense of lives that break hard into this sort of air. Some I am spared, some I live. For now, I believe, with the belief of desire in our early walk home, ice in the pores of the asphalt like salt in the earth, a few pearls in the headlights, and the snowy rain caught as bright netting in your hair. The instruments are delicate enough now to declare the decay of orbits. Then this week, the papers report the faltering constant of the speed of light. If the math is right, all sight was swifter in the past, in the asymptotic soaring apse of space. A hockey net abandoned to the early dark stands at our garage as the growing up of suns. A stick flossed on slapshots leans against the porch, leans against the soaring apse of space. We go in. We are going on together. The light each day, one finest hairbreadth slower, until at the end of time, your glance upward from the pillow will take forever to reach my waiting eyes. Okay, so Steve wants me to try to read part of Desert Rose Butterfly Storm. So it's a book-length poem, but not to terrify you. There is a condensed version published in Review of the Literature of the Americas in a special Canadian issue, masterfully edited by my friend Mark Abley, who was the last reader at Tree a few weeks ago. And Mark edited it so well that I'm tempted to think this is actually the better version of the poem. But the longer one's in book form, and I get $1.50 or so from royalties for each copy. So. And this is an quasi-academic journal published by Routledge, which I think you need to even subscribe to their website to be able to read it. So it's a rant. It's also a love letter to my son when he was leaving home at 17. It needs a little bit of setup, but it is a rant. So it's a rant, it's a pastiche, it's at the time of the Gulf War, it's about the fury of growing up, of loss, of the stupidity of that war. I was Canada's rep to the humanitarian organizations in Geneva, so I was going to meetings in the splendor of the Palais des Nations in Geneva, but important humanitarian work. And then I'd be off to Damascus and into Jordan, seeing the refugee camps, and then back. And at the same time, my son was going through a very difficult time in his life and getting prepared to leave. The other thing I think you need to know, a couple of factoids. My son's bedroom window looked east over the Alps, where there were spectacular sunrises every day. But when you're in the wrong frame of mind and Iraq was falling apart and there was millions of refugees fleeing the country, it looked like a huge bloody cauldron in the east. And I think there's an allusion to Mordor in here, and that's what Iraq felt like at the time. There's also some excerpts from the website of a company called Raytheon, which is a weapons manufacturer. The website is quite a piece of work if you want to go and browse on it. It's full of great stuff for poets, Stephen. You know, Raytheon makes families of missiles. You know, it's metaphor laden in quite a horrifying way. So there's some little excerpts in here, and then you know it's a pastiche. It's full of Eliot and Ginsberg and Keats and Wordsworth and the Red Hot Chili Peppers and the Tragically Hip and all sorts of other things. So we'll see how it goes, because it has to be a rant, because it's angry. I was mad at the time. And it's about 10 pages, so it's a little bit of time. So settle in and see how it goes. So Desert Rose, Butterfly Storm. And it's got a quotation from Michael Ignatieff before he was a politician, from his many wonderful books about blood-torn countries. He must do a certain violence to himself to make the mask of hatred fit. So a 21st century letter for John leaving home. Game Boy. God damn it, light the fuse, Jehovah, Yahweh, Jesus, Osama, Allah, George. What is this particular fucking prayer-faced ruse all about? Softly. Because of the great gloom that is in my mind, I'll cover your sleeping arm, my child. The cold wind winds from confines somewhere, everywhere, nowhere west of Baghdad. Out black holes where the saddest words are kept. The vest is blessed, and markets display to dazzled buyers their visceral wares. The Alps from your window are meadow snow and sunrise fire. This year of the hooded Christ, the wired man, the blowback blow. Views from here, in the year, I fear, only the rant is heard. Renewed howl, don't go. Go well, don't go. Go with one extra blessing for each wild word I throw. Ruses all round, the big scheme frayed, I'm not counting beads. Given our stars a seed, not in lovely nighttime dreams, never mind, not in lone splendor hung aloft the night. Rather plunge in all directions these billion on billion thermonuclear storms, so many quadrillion tons apiece, cast faster in all directions towards slowest waste of someone's cornerless curved idea of twisted space, wasteland, Anbar sand, each sun still faster after eons of spent momentum than our best axis bust and heat seek and flesh scented long-term performer in the Raytheon family of missiles. Lovely light, white photon, pathways on the gay Game Boy screens, silent underwing falconry, precision-guided payback straight down the window wells, the chimney pots, the veil of years and tears. The nuclear family is the heat sought. Next to ether. Maverick AGM-65 family of missiles is the versatile precision strike missile of choice. Butterfly storm. Septillions here and there. The sheerest of fabric moves in a towering wind. Atoms cross the membranes. Lungs gather themselves again within the desktop. The fist rain on the pane. Planed oak, a hover, vibration, a slight, not quite moving. If you know the speed, you lose your place. A careful count is just so Vietnam. Best give up on here or there. Let the damned mapping go. Probability curtains blow in the idiot wind. Free all the borders where the bloods blend. The blur begins. Windows has encountered an error. You may send a report. Decades from the granaries. Hauling myself out to play from a laptop in big rooms in the splendid plenaries. Palais des Nations and Hedge Lake, snow-capped Geneva. where air is washed, the keys shine, mountains step close, city of humanitarian multilats, peace talks, lunch, high commissioners, executive councils, working groups, standing committees, special rapporteurs, non-papers, holistic strategic coordination of frameworks as appropriate where indicated in consultation with, formal informals, unvoted votes, clamshell on the ear, fondue, parkland, oaks and birdsong, pricey hookers, trams. Here, sunrise over local Alps sets the cumulus on fire like nowhere on earth. Soaring salamander of flame, where the indigo breeze impales, where I long for you, bitter kid, laughing friend, dancing boy. And from our 10th floor terrace, looking east into dawn's scarlet font, you can almost see Mordor, the cindering tower, much music decapitations, the market-bombed, flesh-blasted bastions of Baghdad, rivers of Babylon, sadder city blues, cinder block weeping, bloody rose, black on sand, can barely unbelievingly glimpse a woman rise slowly in white robes through strobes of heat, one hand raised in ever-saving peace, peace be upon her, moves through borders and checkpoints and magic wands and touches the navel's trigger. TOW family, TOW 2, two-launched, optically tracked, wire-guided weapon system with the multi-mission TOW 2A, TOW 2B, TOW 2B Arrow, and TOW bunker buster missiles. www.raytheon.com/products TOW family. Desert rose, blackened clothes, charred hand, blood on sand, Jehovah, Yahweh, Jesus, Osama, Allah, George, neurons to burn and just enough vision to understand that all this links to all that and how this is the same as nothing touching nothing, effect flowers everywhere and the cause lost, punk ska kid, pick it up, I don't want to be alive in 2065, mad kid disease, my son's band, impulse ties your son to the apocalypse bruise that surfaces like dark nebula in pale sky, a billiard ball in its glinting roll and bank and fall links back to cue to muscles pulled taut, evolution of the eye, that sad pun, and a faint breeze that rearrays the porticos of dawn and the thermal complications of forest floors, erases as script in sand the scaffolds of the constellations. Monitor the vomit. Staring into the London evening, the drawing down of blinds, Eliot scrawled, "For I saw with my own eyes, my own eyes, my own eyes, the celebrated Sybil at Cumai, hung in a bottle. When I asked her what she wanted, she said, I want to die. By waters of Lehman, reeling with vertigo, you seize me with fierce hands, that in one burnt instant I see match exactly my own hands, and staggered in my riveted gaze and gag and cry, the whites of eyes, Dad, Dad, I want to die. The Alps bled autumn light. We need to withstand that at Guantanamo, Najaf, Bagram, Sadr City, kids of Ben, spawns of Dick, there are so many men who long to die. What are the roots that clutch? What branches grow out of this stony mound? That the city shining on a hill hails the novel regime, their new feeding chair, bold sort of chair to thwart the fastings unto death of men who long to die, with straps to strap their hands like my hands, your hands, down, and afterwards the prisoners moved to a dry room and monitored to make sure they do not vomit. Monitor vomit, vomit monitored. This is the world you must choose to love. Didn't say it was easy. Turn the wheel and look to windward, son of Emmaus. Advanced multi-layer interconnect provides high-quality thin film, thick film, and high-density interconnect products for commercial, military, and space applications. And they took in Judges chapter this and verse whatever, two princes of the Midianites, Oreb and Zeb, and they, that would be the chosen people of the Lord, slew Oreb upon a rock, and Zeb they slew at the winepress, thin film, thick film, and high-density interconnect products, and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon, lacking a website, on the other side of Jordan, just west of Baghdad, to no record how they got the heads off. The Aisle Through the Clouds. January 7 in Damascus. The borders of Iraq rest on the minds of those cutting the tips off cigars in the lounges of elegant hotels, of drafting policy maps between sleep and dreams, like a closed furnace door, a cement kiln, charred bone, a distant omnipresent hum, tinnitus of data banks, bed frames bolted on walls. The hanged man talks and talks. He knows the truth shall set him free. In Damascus souks splendid with cashews with damascene, I run my fingers over their jubilant braille. I veiled matrons in low-hipped jeans on the lush seams of their daughters. The minaret points to Alpha Centauri, stirred with equal fears, the butterfly whim, the semaphore of a million leaves, a single forest walk, your passing by. I turned my head, John, and you were gone. My children are my colorful ones, my stained radiance, my white blindness gone gold, small myths about the rain, fall in a dream voice of joy-torn fear, which every night explains the way the world should be, then falls asleep. Patriot is a long-range, high-altitude, all-weather system designed to defeat advanced threats, including aircraft, tactical ballistic missiles, and cruise missiles, combat proven during Operation Desert Storm. Patriot can simultaneously engage multiple targets under the most severe electronic countermeasure conditions. Multifunction phased array radar, track via missile guidance, and automated operations, including man-in-the-loop, human override, are the key features of the Patriot system. May, June, the river's tent is broken. Thomas Stern's back in tune. Through the 80s and 90s, I couldn't read his dated whinge and hallow. Lone white horse walks dry beds of lost streams, deep targets as dusk falls, and his voice creeps through vines into plain sun, last edge of sun under gunmetal cloud. The river's tent is broken, rosy-fingered dawn and so forth, broaching the graven Alps beyond your shrapnel dreams. Desert east toward Baghdad rises dirt brown. Dad on the phone, from Syria, Jordan, from never near enough to you, but slowly toward the earth's edge, a dust suffused with blue, takes on the gentle tones of old rose petals someone kept for the son who is every son, pierced with love and anger, the long limbs, the slender wrists, the familiar fingers. The best minds of my generation destroyed by madness. Did I want you as young and wild as my own dreams of eternal delight? You, my own proof to combat calm and weariness and compromise and getting along, to never come fully home, to never crest, to let it go, keep it going, let it go, keep it going. Your own personal hypocrite lecteur wants you to risk everything and be safe. Very last section is in Jordan, walking down to the treasury that most of us have seen in the Indiana Jones film. It's a long, narrow passageway at Petra. Kazni, the treasury. God damn it, light the fuse. Jehovah, Yahweh, Jesus, Osama, Allah, George. What is this particular fucking prayer-faced ruse all about? Light the fuse. Can you hear me calling home on this lousy line? Underwater voices, static sea. Tell mom, tell mom, tell mom. Today, in the fresh of the morning, we came down unto Petra. Before the great heat, in Elysium of the new year. Whate'er its mission, the soft breeze can come to none more grateful than me, escaped from the great city's souks. And should the chosen guide be nothing better than a wandering cloud, and sky a cloudless zone and missile-free, I cannot miss my way, as, together with gathered friends, bundled in a minibus across the snow-flecked pass in arid scree, we parsed blue sky in almond groves, southward from Amman, the Dead Sea on our right-hand side, a slit of brilliantine below the scrubby ridge. To left, the borderlands where the images sleep an uneasy sleep, Badiat Ashram, Anbar, Basra, the disturbed earth where the jackboot steps, sickle in dust, the gaped neck. But toward noon, there is a blessing in this gentle breeze, a visitant that while it fans my burning cheek, doth seem half conscious of the joy it brings. Blackberries shut down, we barely chat, seek the correspondent breeze, all stilled, Nabatean. Our walk today down Petra's twisting, narrowing waste, the dark pink stone striated, marbled, a grainy script, down the flat sand seek under the towering muscled walls until, where the travelers pause and hush at the canyon's rosy clench, the cream light opens, buttery, yellow, and the hovering treasury somehow in and beyond the light, rosy sandstone dawn to be sure, and a Hollywood hit, yet massive, thundering, soaring, pillared, vaulted, graven, 10,000 intricacies, the weighted dream just beyond the birth canal, eagles of stone, crowns of stone, gasp for air, gasp and cry. But I see the lovely boy as I beheld him then, among the wretched death-dazed throngs, the crazed gone gay, like one of those who walked with every hair unsinged, dreaded, mohawked, shaven, golden blue and flaming green, through the fire, gasp for air, be calm and passionate and free, do not hurt, dance to a frenzied drum in radical innocence, be kind in the jumpy spirit of the Church of Vonnegut, labor into the riches of no respite, the peace that comes and goes. I woke just west of Baghdad in some random Sheraton, could hear it still, a shout of drums, a sprint of ska in the room, in the desert night, deep in the corridors, trying to get through, still going, this long lingering, trying to get through, trying to get through. Your cell phone's ringtone is a song you had been singing just for me. Thanks. Let's close with one little short one. In contrast, the smallness between the stars. Somewhere, the red reveals conclusively orange, and the sense of spectrum begins, blood orange between your lips. Some particular flake through slow winter morning is just enough, and at lunch I look, and brown fields are cold white ash. Somewhere, he wrote, in a nightfall whisper of grief, the sea deepens from blue to black, and somewhere from crystal to blue. The thinning hold of exosphere somewhere dissolves a last molecule of breath, and a song without words begins. The voice abandoned on the darkening porch calls out to a certain distance, and then can reach no further. There is a place in an instant on a torn match where the faint yellow lesion buds from bituminous soil. There is the moment before and the moment after, the coming of each salt thought of you, out of somewhere and into sometime. But the unthinkable map of their emerging is everywhere we can never be. And with this, our love contends. Thanks for listening.